Hi everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. So October's been a very hectic month. Been doing a lot at work and trying to squeeze in some reads in between. So let's see how I did. I created a TBR at the beginning of the month, but obviously I deviated. Let's see how those books fit in on my journey. The first book of the month that I finished was The Donut Trap. And The Donut Trap follows Jasmine Cran. She recently graduated college. She's not sure exactly what she wants to do with her life. She sees like some of the people she went to college with making moves into these great careers, and it just feels like she's being left behind. This is described as a romance, but honestly it felt more like a coming of age. Yes, there was a relationship in it where when she ends up connecting with a boy she met in college, but like the romance wasn't at the forefront. It was something at the side and just like an additional piece included among her drama with her parents, because she's working in her parents' donut shop, and she's helping them like with new ideas on how to make the shop a better place and bring in more money because their landlord is threatening to raise the rent. Like I said, she reconnects with this boy from college. She also like reconnects with her ex-boyfriend, but that part kind of felt pointless and just thrown in for drama. And I did end up enjoying this book. It wasn't a top read, but it was like enjoyable to read somebody who was messy and didn't know what they needed, like what they wanted to do in life, and just was navigating something that a lot of us have felt, where it's like, where do I go from here after graduation? The next book that I ended up reading was one that was on my October TBR, and that's Within These Wicked Walls. I actually received an ARC from Wednesday Books. I was able to read it right before the release date, and it actually ended up getting picked up as a book for Reese's YA Book Club, so congratulations to Lauren Blackwood. I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I was gonna like. I don't know. YA fantasy has just been kind of hit and miss for me lately, so I haven't been enjoying it as much. But this one I liked it because it wasn't overly complex. It wasn't super long. Sometimes you just need something that's short, sweet, and doesn't have a lot of filler. Like, there were little spaces here and there where it lagged, but then it picked right back up. So it wasn't anything that deterred me from completely giving up on the book. I did read part of it on audio, and I will say I did not like the narrator they chose, because they chose this British narrator, and the setting of the book is like an Ethiopian inspired setting. So hearing this British narration did not match up with that, and I felt like how they always use British actors in period pieces, despite it being nowhere from Britain, or you always use British actors in fantasy. It just felt unnecessary, and it kind of took away the vibes of this Ethiopian inspired setting, because we're amid the sand dunes, and this is this creepy castle amid the sand dunes, and she was giving me gothic, dark England the whole time, so I had to keep remembering like where this was set. Even though the one character Maxwell is technically half British, it just felt a little bit out of place. So I really though did enjoy this story. I thought like the atmosphere that was built perfectly blended that creepy but not overly horrific. There was blood, but it wasn't too gory, and the descriptions were just enough but not too flowery. So Within These Wicked Walls follows Andromeda. She is a Debtera. She's been living on the streets, but she was just assigned to rid this house of the evil eye. The house's owner, Maxwell, is a chocolate heir, and he's kind of a little weird. And he doesn't take nice to everybody. However, she is able to work with him so that she can get rid of the demons that are bothering him. And like I said, it was just a great story. I don't want to spoil too much. I will mention, though, demon hyenas. If you want to know what the demon hyenas is about, definitely check out this book. So then I've also been reading a lot of picture books during the past month for my holiday gift guide and a separate picture book video that I did. So definitely check that out if that's something that you're interested in. I like to post about picture books from time to time because a lot of my readers are mothers, aunties, godmothers, cousins. They have friends who have kids. So it's just great to have those books available and know what to buy them sometimes. The next book that I read was Flowers for the Sea, and Flowers for the Sea was also on my TBR. It is a novella that is kind of like horror fantasy. It was very short, and honestly, I don't want to give away too much because it was so brief, but basically it follows this woman who is on this ship with a bunch of refugees from her island. They've been on the water for a couple of years now, I think, or well over a year. And there's no hope in sight. They're running out of food. Things are bad. And somehow she's the only one who's been able to get pregnant recently. So everybody is kind of like latching onto her, make sure this baby is able to come to term. And she starts to think that maybe this baby she's giving birth to isn't exactly human. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check out Flowers for the Sea. So then I wanted to read What Happens in Miami for a while now, and since it was Latinx Heritage Month up until the 15th, this just felt like perfect timing. I ended up winning an Amazon gift card earlier this month, so I decided to just go ahead and buy it. And What Happens in Miami has a Haitian American MC and an Afro-Cuban MC, so it was very fitting. Angeline Louise is working at an art gallery in Miami. It is the big Art Basel Week in Miami, and one of her coworkers is out, so she is assigned to deliver a painting to this famous actor, Alessandro Cardenas. And Sandro, when she gets there, he doesn't even care about the painting. He just like immediately buys it. So it was a pretty easy sale for her. But he kind of shows that he's interested in her and asks her to stay and hang out with him and his friends. They're vibing. She stays a while. She ends up spending the night with him and having a great time. She kind of has a lot of issues because she recently got out of a long-term relationship and she's still not over that guy. So he's kind of willing to help her let loose. And then she sneaks off in the morning before he wakes up. But they end up meeting up again later that day at another art event. And he says, let's just give this a shot, see where things go, and have fun times. And Angeline is a little insecure because she's almost 30 and she has no clue what she wants to do in life, where her career is headed. She's feeling like a failure. Her Haitian family has put a lot of pressure on her because she's working as an artist versus doctor or lawyer or a big top earning career. And they wouldn't have approved of her running around with this celebrity. Alessandro also, in addition to being an actor, comes from an art background. His grandfather was a painter and his work has been gaining a lot of traction lately, and he suspects that the art gallery that Angeline is working for is producing fakes, and he's determined to get to the bottom of that mystery. So there's a little romance, a little bit of mystery to follow along. It's a very quick read. My only gripe with it was that it took place over the course of a week, which felt I mean, romance already isn't that realistic, and like romance like this, like category fantasy where you're meeting millionaires and billionaires, really isn't that realistic to begin with. Like you kind of have to let a lot slide, but that was really hard for me because I feel like there so much was written in this. It could have taken place over the course of a month, and it would have been a little bit more believable, especially with the "I love yous" coming so fast. So then the next one that I got to read was For All Time. And For All Time is a YA romance. There's not a lot of black romance in YA. So it's always great when you see one on the shelves. And what made this one really unique was it had this like reincarnation, past lives aspect. It follows Fayard and Tamar. And we follow them through ancient Mali, through 1920s Philadelphia, we see them in the future on this lunar base in 2260, and we see them in present day where Tamar is having a hard time because she has this respiratory illness due to having caught um, COVID. So this takes place in a post-pandemic world, and Fayard is a little bit obsessed with her. He really just wants to prove to her that he loves her, and at times it can feel like he's smothering her a little bit and not letting her grow on her own. And I just thought this was a great story. I really enjoyed how Shannon Miles incorporated the different timelines, and I loved the southernness of the present day because it took place like part of it took place in present day South Carolina, and I could tell she spent a lot of time around teens recently because it actually like read like something like the way that they spoke read like the way teens would speak, and it read like something that they would be interested in. Sometimes authors write like they think they know what teens want, but it might be the teens from their generation because it doesn't sound like they've talked to any teens recently. This didn't have that problem at all, and I look forward to more books from her. So the next book that I read for the month was Mango, Mambo, and Murder, and it followed Miriam Kiona Smith. She's different from a lot of, this was a cozy mystery. She's different from a lot of cozy mystery heroines that I've encountered in that she is married and a mother. Most of them are like young and single, and there's a cute cop love interest waiting on the sides. That wasn't the case here, which made it unique. And also, she's Cuban. She recently moved from New York to Florida with her husband and child. Her child is very young, I'd say like 4-ish. And it was, and Miriam is a food anthropologist. Right now, she's not working because she just recently agreed to this move. Her husband is working. He was originally they were going to move back to Miami. However, he got this new more like this new job that pays a lot more, so that they moved back to his old hometown, and she's still adjusting to that because it's very white compared to where she grew up, and she's not quite sure how to fit in. She goes with her old longtime friend Alma to this community event, and one of the women at the lunch end up dead, and her friend Alma is getting accused even though she had nothing to do with it. In the meantime, while Miriam is dealing with that, she gets offered the opportunity to do a cooking segment on a Spanish language television show. So they're really interested in Caribbean style cooking, which Miriam knows a lot about. And it was really great to see how that was incorporated too, because she doesn't just incorporate Cuban cuisine, she also talks a little bit about Haitian cuisine. As we know, there's a big Haitian population in South Florida, so I appreciated reading about that as well. Um, I liked how this book had Miriam constantly switching between speaking in Spanish and speaking in English, sometimes mid sentence. Anybody who's been around Spanish speakers knows that that's something that's very common for them to do. So that felt realistic, especially because it wasn't followed up by explanations. I know a lot of readers said that annoyed them, but I thought that was great. And there, Miriam Marriage is also a little bit in trouble because ever since they moved, her husband is acting really shady and secretive, and he's reconnecting with his old girlfriend, who's also kind of his cousin. It was really weird. So there was a lot going on there. In addition to the mystery, I wasn't like that invested in the mystery just because I was so much more interested in all the other things that were going on. But I really appreciate how this is done, and I'm interested in reading more from this series. So my next read was Go Deep, followed by the extended epilogue Deeper. And everybody in the romance community has been telling me to read this story for a long time, so finally got to it. I usually don't read erotica, but I'm dipping my toe into it more to see what I like. And Go Deep follows Nevaeh, who is an erotic writer who is stuck in a rut. She hasn't had great inspiration recently. It's been a while since she's had a boyfriend. Her last boyfriend treated her horribly, and that relationship ended up really messy. She's kind of leaning on her friend Xander, who's been having a hard time in his relationships too. He finds that she tends to often come in between his relationships because the girls will get jealous of their close friendship. Aya kind of jokingly agrees that they should have sex for inspiration for her novel. And at first he's like, are you serious? But he ends up agreeing to it. And then it gets really steamy. I won't give too many details because that's part of the surprise. But I really liked the scene. I really liked the scene in the restaurant, and I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was great that it was friends to lovers. They had a lot of chemistry. Deeper was the perfect follow-up to read it right after it, and I highly recommend this one. So back on track with my October TBR, I ended up reading As the Wicked Watch by Tamron Hall. I'm familiar with Tamron Hall, but I'm not like a fan. So I was curious about reading the story because I have seen her on TV, and I know she has a criminal investigation background, having reported on these same types of stories all the time. And this one follows Jordan Manning. It's the first in the series. This was okay. It was an okay book. It wasn't horrible. It didn't have me screaming through the wall. It didn't feel like whitewashed like a lot of the hype books have felt for this year for me. But it also wasn't anything spectacular. Jordan Manning is basically Tamron Hall. She gave her the exact same background, having come out of Texas broadcasting and moved to the big city of Chicago. She kind of has that assertive, pushy personality like Tamron, and a lot of this book kind of like you'd be following along the mystery, and then it would deviate to talking about shoes or hair or Jordan recalling like random memories, and then it could be preachy at some points, which is something that I hate in books. And for some reason a lot of Black readers think, okay, since we're touching on tough topics, we're just going to beat you over the head with it. So while I appreciated that we were discussing how Black kids, especially Black girls, when they go missing, don't get the attention that they deserve, which is, we were just talking about that recently with the case of Maya Marcano. Like, I also did not like how it kept constantly being, like, how we kept constantly being pounded over the head with it, and it was like through Jordan's inner thoughts. So there's like a lot of conversations that happen within Jordan's inner thoughts that are very repetitive, and it's like, yes, I understand, or stuff that could have stayed implied because it was easy to understand, but it's blatantly spelled out, and I wasn't really feeling that. The actual mystery just follows So they call it a serial killer, and I mean, I guess, but it really wasn't like traditional serial killer where like there's multiple victims. Most of the time we spend on the one victim. She, um, her body was found in horrible condition, dumped on a old lot. You kind of meet different people around the city who knew her, and Jordan feels really extra connected to like this case. I felt less though like she cared and more like she got obsessed with being the one to solve it at points, which didn't work for me. And because she was kind of like one of those people who would do whatever it takes. She didn't mind putting herself in danger. And it's like, girl, you're a reporter. Chill out. And people had to tell her that multiple times. But then, like, with her love interest, at one point, she's kind of telling, like, they hook up, he spends the night, wakes up, and then he's just like, well, I feel like I'm kind of in your way. And she's like, in her mind, she's like, I don't want to tell him that, but he is kind of in my way to try and solve in this case. And I'm like, I don't understand why he was thrown in, I guess to show another side of her, but the side it showed really didn't help. All in all, it was an interesting story, but it wasn't like, or there wasn't an urgency, to continue on with it. I would need a big overhaul of Jordan to be able to follow her across multiple books. So, all in all, even though I deviated from my TBR, October has been a great reading month. Way better than September, even though, like, at times I felt this month like I haven't been reading enough. I have some books that I'm really looking forward to in November that I'm, like, really excited about. So, I'm hoping to get back into my full reading mojo and just be able to crank out these books. And I still have to read Destroyer of Light, which was on my TBR. I have not started it yet. I'm trying to see if I can get an audiobook for that to read along with it. And I started the first chapter of All Her Little Secrets. It's one that I'm really looking forward to. It's another thriller. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint. But like I said, there's a lot to look forward to for November reads, and I'm optimistic. If you made it this far in the video, let me know what book you've enjoyed this month. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye!